Hey, everybody out in Home Care Ops Nation, welcome to this edition of the Action Cast. It's going to be incredible. We have an amazing show for you today because if you're a home care owner and you're sitting there wondering, like, oh my God, you know what? I want to grow, I want to scale, I want to get bigger. I know I'm meant for more, but you know what? I'm exhausted, I'm burnt out, I don't even know how I could do it. Then you need to be on today's show because we're talking to someone who is scaling their home care agency and beyond. And not only that, they're doing it from the ground up, bootstrapping this thing. All right, so get ready, everybody, because we have an action-packed show today right here on the Action Cast. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Action Cast. I'm Clint Nobles, and on today's Action Cast, we're talking about how to scale in home care and beyond. An amazing topic. And remember, this is a live Action Cast, so if you want to join in and comment, please do. Just make sure to go to StreamYard.com/Facebook so we can see your beautiful faces and know who's commenting. But let's give a big home care ops welcome to Nicole Haney because she is our guest today. Absolute extraordinary home care owner. She's an action leader, and man, she really takes action seriously. You're one of the most action-oriented people I know, so you definitely want to hear what she has today about scaling. Nicole, thank you so much for joining us here today. It's fantastic to have you.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm super excited. I was telling Clint earlier, I've been in my ventures missing some of the home care ops stuff. So I've been needing this therapy in my life. So I'm excited to be here.
Oh man, we love having you in Action Leaders. You really are this breath of action that comes in because, you know what, and we'll get into a little bit more of this later. But for those who don't know Nicole, or wasn't watching the news last night, because right, your Papa's Place was on, you know, news network. It was really a great thing. I actually shared it on Home Care Ops. So if y'all haven't seen it, you need to go watch it. It's fantastic. But tell us a little bit about like the business you own and really the businesses you own.
So I own Papa's Place, and we started Papa's Place in 2018. And it seems like forever ago, but it really is like in a blink of an eye. It doesn't seem like it's been like we're in 2022 already. And we kind of started Papa's Place as what my vision was to be an adult day program. We have programs in Michigan that are pretty similar, but the adult daycare piece is still even now in 2022 kind of a foreign concept. But back then I was working for community mental health agencies, and I was doing investigations in adult foster care homes and in these day programs, but they were for adults with developmental disabilities and mental illness. And my grandfather was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and grandma refused people to help her in her home. She didn't want anybody in her home. So I thought, I'm starting this. I'm going to do this day program. She can't deny me to take care of him if it's his namesake. So Papa's Place came to fruition. And so we started as an adult day center. And because of my grandpa and I's relationship, I really focused in the Alzheimer's and dementia piece. And beyond that, we started to implement home care services after hours and on the weekends when people weren't at the day center. So from there, we started adding these other service lines. We've added the home care piece, which has really been, especially with COVID, kind of where our focus has had to shift during COVID. But now we are with Papa's Place. We're offering 6 different service programs to our seniors. We're covering about 10 counties, and we're located in rural northern Michigan. So one county can be 150 miles long from one end to the other. So we've got about 10 counties that we do home care in. We do medication management, and then we have our day program, and we're just now kind of completing our continuum of care with the addition of an assisted and independent living.
Yeah, because if that wasn't enough, right?
Right,
Like
right.
you
No,
weren't busy enough,
right.
right? So, and this is what we're talking about today. So, everybody joining us, welcome. We're talking to Nicole Haney, owner of Papa's Place, and basically like the rest of Michigan. But so
Someday.
no, serious, yeah, someday. So that's what I love about you. That's what I love. Like nothing's out of bounds.
Nope.
So, but what we're talking about is how to scale in home care. And if you were just listening to Nicole go through that, and we're like, oh yeah, I started because I let I have a story similar. I start. Oh wait a minute, and you added home care, and you're adding it right. If you're going through that, and they're like, my lord, how can I do that when I already feel overwhelmed of my business? Because let me know in the comments how many owners out there feel like their business is actually running you and you're not running your business, right? Let me know in the comments. If that's you, give me a thumbs up because I know for us that was the case for us. We felt that way. But you and I were talking before the show and you talked about this mind shift that happened. And I know, you had called and we're talking to Jess and I, and kind of talking about how you were just done. You were ready, right? Ready just to close it up, right? And right, and Angie, she's like me too, right? I feel, she's like my, I still feel like it, right? So she's like, but the great thing is you were talking about this mind shift. So the first thing I want to talk about in how to scale in home care, and beyond is this piece you talked about. So when you called and talked to us, you were at this point where you were just down, you were kind of done. And tell me how you come out of that and what you realized about yourself that really energized you into going into your business.
So I think the mind shift that had to happen for me was, if I had to put it into one scenario or one situation that really kind of made me change my mind shift, was even though I owned a business, I never viewed myself as a business owner. I happened to be a caregiver who had fallen into having a business. And it wasn't until I was kind of sitting with some of my staff and I had started to put these action pieces into place and things started to make sense. And I had a staff who had been burnt out. She was done. She'd been taken advantage of. And we've all been there, either as a caregiver, previous employment situations. We've been to that point. And she started as a care provider, and through the hierarchy structure that I learned, started implementing and putting people into management roles that really deserved to be in those roles because they had set themselves apart. And she began to cry, and she had started talking about the impact that I had made on her. And it was during that conversation that I really decided, and I started making decisions with a different mindset after that. It wasn't so much, I had to stop making decisions as a caregiver and start making them as a business owner. If I made the same decisions as a business owner that I did as a caregiver, I would continue to get walked all over and make decisions that were not in the financial best interest of my business. And so I had to learn to say no. And I had to learn and understand that no is a full sentence.
Oh man, like it's so hard for me not to talk right now because you're inspiring me so much in this. And really you're inspiring everyone that's watching this because what you just said, and and after this is done, I want all of you to go back and listen to this again, right? Because what she said right there is golden. She had to start making decisions as a business owner. And when we go to that place and we say, how do I scale in home care? That's the decision that first has to be made. And action leaders, Jess and I, we see that so often when agency owners come in action leaders where we're teaching them to exit daily operations to reduce that daily ops footprint. They come in, but they're still thinking of themselves as a caregiver. And one of the first things we do in the very first module is they have to say to themselves, you know what? I am a business owner. And I love the fact that you recognized the impact you were having, because so often we fear losing that caregiver side of us in home care
Mhm.
because we feel like, oh, no, no, I need to be that caregiver or I'm not going to make that impact. But you found you were impacting in another way,
Mhm.
and that was your team. So tell me a little bit about that and how that drives you now and what you do.
So it with my team that I have now, it's all kind of come full circle. I started this like many people trying to work a 9 to 5 and run a home care agency and make sure that I was giving good care when I was seeing clients and staff were doing this. And it was, it's a daunting task. We know how daunting of a task it is. We've
Amen.
all been through it. It's one of those things where it was just a matter of I had to say to myself before I made any decisions. I'm a very reactive person. And that was actually one of my New Year's resolutions, was to not be so reactionary, and take the time and think about a decision before I made it and say to myself, is this decision going to better my business, or is this going to tell them what they want to hear? And
Hmm.
it was really understanding that there's a way to say what needs to be said to make good business decisions to your staff and also not feel like they're being chastised or talked down to. And so the team that I have now is phenomenal. And every one of them started with me as a care provider in the field. You know, we have been boots on the ground together, and through their dedication, they've come up with me, and it's been inspiring to watch their journey. You know, you don't always think the same thing about yourself because we're really hard on ourselves, but my team, my directors, and even my care managers, some of them have been with me since I opened, and that's not always a common thing that happens in the home care industry. We know retention rates are very um, turnover rates are very high, and retention isn't always something that we can brag about. But my team is phenomenal, and they have gotten to the point now where I told Jess and Clint one day on a phone call, I'm bored.
And that's, by the way, if you ever wonder, so there's triggers in business. And one of the triggers for when it's time to scale is I'm bored. That's one of the triggers you look for internally as an entrepreneur is I'm bored in this. And if you think about it, it's similar to like musicians. If you ever wonder why musicians take a song that they did 20 years ago and they do this remastered version of it, and you're like, well, that sucks. Like, why did they? It was great the way it was, right? But they were bored with it. They wanted to breathe new life into it. And the
Mm-hmm.
same is with our agencies. What happens though is we tend to get so bogged down with the weight of the agency that we can't see the new life opportunities. So that's what I love, because when we had that discussion with you and you were done, you were ready to stop, and we were like, give us just a couple of months. Let's see, if you're in the same mindset, in the same place. And you did, and boy, you did. And the next portion, so the first thing to how you scale in home care, right, we've discovered is this mindset shift that I'm not just a caregiver, right? I'm a business owner. I'm this entrepreneur. The next thing is something that if you could bottle it and patent it, like you would be insanely rich because you take action. And that's the next thing that I have seen from what you do in scaling home care is take action. When you are ready to do something, it's not about waiting till it's perfect, right? Jess always says progress, not perfection. So tell us about this action period of time, because you're installing these systems in your business and then you see this opportunity come along for the independent living. How does that marry? Are you using the same systems that you're using there? Like, how does that work? Tell me about that journey.
So when the assisted living idea came to fruition, it was a business I was familiar with. We had worked with them. They bring some of their participants down to our day center a couple days a week. And I had, jokingly in conversation with the owner said, "Hey, when you're ready to sell, let me know," because I had been in his home 5 or 6 years previous. And I had made the comment, "One day I'm going to own this," or "One day I'm going to buy this," something like that. And so when he reached out and was like, "Hey, like, we're thinking about selling," and he had his son and daughter-in-law who were involved in the business as well, and it's just not what they're wanting to do. How serious were you about purchasing? And I was like, well, I tend to say a lot of things, and apparently I've gotten myself into a situation because now I'm going to be buying an assisted living. But it really was not that big of a shift. Some of my background is in assisted living, adult foster care homes. So even that, I was like, I'm nervous, but I'm not terrified. I'm not scared. But I would have been, I think, if I wasn't so prepared in the systems and the operations that I already knew to be successful. A lot of what we're doing now with the new business is simply taking what we already know works in home care and implementing it in our assisted living and independent, because care is care, but bigger picture than that, business is business. It doesn't necessarily only pertain to home care or assisted living. If you understand a business and understand the inner workings and the operations and how things work, repeatable systems are going to work for any business that you can imagine, whether it's a hair salon or a retail store. It's really just about understanding your business and what your operations ideally would look like, and then putting them into action.
It's so true. Like, what you're saying is so on point, because it really is business. And I love that. That needs to be like a bumper sticker in home care. It's like business is business. And that mentality and really that understanding is what makes the taking action really work. Because, like, you talked about modeling the systems that you already knew were proven, right? So as you're coming through this, Tony Robbins, he always talks about mastery. And he says mastery is immersion and repetition, right? Immersion and repetition. And if we think about it, it's the same thing in business that it is in home care. Home care, oftentimes we feel like we're this island on out in the ocean somewhere, that nothing is really like us. But the reality is the principles of business are still the same.
Mm-hmm.
It still runs the same way. And if you're looking to scale in home care, and beyond, and we'll get to that beyond here in just a minute. But if you're looking to scale in home care, the same principles that help Microsoft scale, right, will help you scale, because it's the principles, which, is what we teach so heavily in the action leaders. And we have, like, loved watching you take the principles, because it's not just about modeling it, it's about making it your own. And something that I have seen you do is take something that we talk about, or something you learn, and you don't just try and force it into your business. You really think about that business mentality, right? What I call that master operator mentality, where, how is this going to work for my business? How does this work? How does it fit in the gears I already have? And so let's talk about this beyond piece, because if you look at this and it says how to scale in home care and beyond, right? That could be so many different things. Assisted living, right? You could get into the independent living. And being willing to innovate on those moments. But you're doing even more than that because the systems you put in place have allowed you the time and opportunity to really have an incredible impact. So tell us a little bit about the beyond, because you're taking these business principles and really helping others in your community.
Yeah. So one of the things that when I realized business is business, um, it, what I found to be true when I started kind of getting out of the caregiver mindset and working as a business owner, um, it's difficult for women in business. If you are assertive and you know what your goal is and you have an unapologetic way of getting your vision and your mission across to people, you're perceived in a certain kind of way. And all of my female business owners, you know what that is. Um, and so one of the things that when I was like, business is business, like this can benefit so many other women that own businesses that tend to kind of get shut down and put down for knowing what they want and going after it. So a friend of mine and I are starting kind of a women's networking um, group where we're working with other female business owners on really fine tuning, first understanding their business and understanding what they want out of their business. And then what do you need to do to get to that? And what steps do you need to put in place? And how are we going to get there? So we've worked so far on helping some hair salon owners kind of, you know, what do you want? What do you want out of this business? Do you want to work for somebody else and rent a chair, or do you want people renting chairs from you? If you want people renting chairs from you, cool, we can get you there. But these are the steps that we need to put in place to make sure that that's going to happen. So that's kind of our and beyond right now. And it's fun.
It is. And, Jeff Weiberg, a friend of ours, Jeff Weiberg, is well known in the home care space. He always talks about, your mission is in your margins. And I love that statement. And I always think about it, a little different in that your mission is made possible by your margins. And that's one thing that recognition early on that I'm a business owner
Mm-hmm.
takes. And so if you're watching this and like, I want to scale in home care, I want to, do this, understand why you got into home care was to have an impact. I think probably 100% of everybody in home care would say they want to have an impact. They want to create an impact. And as a home care owner, you can definitely do that. As a caregiver, you can absolutely do that.
Mm-hmm.
But as a business owner, when you really get your business and your systems to a point that you can grow and scale, that it doesn't eat away at your life, you can actually have an even greater impact. Because when you started this, you probably did. I know you very well might have thought about it. But most of us wouldn't have thought about, you know what, I'm going to start this because I really want to have an impact in the lives of women business owners in my area, in my community. Right? That wasn't in the beginning, but your mission became possible because of your ability to scale in home care.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. And I love what you're doing. And it's such an inspiration. And I know, everybody in Home Care Ops Nation, let us know in the comments, like, blow it up, because she has been so great today. And I'm inspired by this. Let me know you're inspired by this, because home care needs this voice. Like, we desperately need the voice that says it's okay to be a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay, right? No, we know it's not all about the money. We understand that. But what it is all about the impact. And income fuels impact. That's what gives us the ability to do that.
Yes.
So, Nicole, thank you so much for being part of this and coming on and inspiring so many of us with your story, right? And yes, right? Inspired, right? Absolutely. We got others like you spoke it into existence. And that's right. Absolutely. You know, it really is incredible what you have done from women. That's awesome. That's awesome. Uh, it really is incredible. And I really appreciate you for coming on. So, in closing, kind of as we wrap this up, if you're talking to a business owner and they're like, okay, I want to scale my home care. What are the first couple things that they really need to think about in their business and plan for?
Well, the biggest thing that I found on planning for is those known variables. We know we're going to have things that happen. How do we put a plan in place before they happen? We all know we're going to have staff call in. We're going to have staff that have more emergency situations than anybody else, it seems like, in the world. It's not the end of the world, but if we have a system in place that helps address that situation in the best way possible, and also worst case scenario. And that's one of the things that we do with our team in our management meetings is, okay, worst case scenario, let's say this happens. What are we doing? And we have very clearly defined rules on, we have a staff that has 40 hours a week and they no call, no show, and they quit. What are we doing? And each person talks about what their responsibility is in that situation. And we go through best case scenario and worst case scenario. So my advice is, one, be unapologetic in what you want in your business. And also know that to get to that, we have to have a plan in place. And that plan is sometimes a twofold plan. Best case scenario, this is what happens. But also plan B, worst case scenario, what are we going to do? And it's okay to not have things work out exactly how we expect them to work out. As long as we have a plan to kind of veer around and get back on track, that, I think, being flexible is going to be the biggest thing that helps you grow and be successful.
I love it. And, I always talk about it as like the chaos funnel, what I call the chaos funnel, and where you're literally controlling the flow of choice in your business.
Yep.
And I 100% agree with that. That is the only way to really make it happen. And so you've been fantastic. I know you've inspired so many of us. And I cannot wait to see what's next for Nicole, for Papa's Place, for whatever. And I mean, you already spoke years ago that you were going to own this place. So it's recorded here that you're going to run Michigan. So
yes,
I'm fairly certain, right. Yeah, one day. So obviously we need to start getting our pins ready. So,
yes,
right.
I will send autographs.
It's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experiences, your journey, and most importantly, the actions you took to learn how to scale in home care and beyond. So make sure everybody to go on and show some loves in the home care operators community. Go to Papa's Place on Facebook and all of that good stuff. Make sure to show them some love. Watch the news video that's on there and share it because it's so good. What you talk about and how you talk is great. Remember, everybody, coming up, we do have an Ask Jess, so you can go to homecareopsnation.com/Ask Jess. Put in any question you want for Jess. I wanted to do Ask Jess anything, but she was like, no, that's too open-ended, but you still can. But ask her anything for home care, and we'll be doing a live where she's going to answer those. And I tell you what, it's been a blast. Thank you again, Nicole. Can't wait to see you in the Action Leaders. And everybody, keep taking action.